This time we talk about how to draw a histogram. As you can see in this example, there's a table showing the height of a group of secondary 2 students. And then the height here are divided into different classes. And here is the corresponding frequency for each class. And before we draw the histogram, we first of all construct this table, frequency distribution table, and we include information about the lower class boundary, upper class boundary, and class mark for each class. Now let me finish this one first. Okay, the lower class boundary for the first class is 139.5 cm, which is 0.5 cm less than the lower class limit. And then the upper class boundary is 144.5 cm. And then for the next class, the lower class boundary starts from 144.5 cm, and the upper class boundary is 149.5 cm. And then you can see that if we continue in this way, it means for the first class, instead of 140 to 144, we start from 139.5 to 144.5. And we'll see that for the next class, we just start from the same value, 144.5. And therefore it means there's no gap between these two classes. It means when we draw the histogram, it is not like a bar chart. There's no gaps between the bars. And then we can continue in this way to finish the information of lower class boundary and upper class boundary. Now here is the completed columns for the lower class boundary and upper class boundary. Then we have to find the class mark. Class mark is the you can think is the middle value between these two values. Therefore, for the class mark, say for the first class, the class mark is found by 139.5 and then plus 144.5 and then divided by 2. And then in this case, for this one, it is 142. Therefore, it means for the first class, the class mark is 142. And we will use this class mark to represent the first class in the histogram. And then we can continue to use similar formula to find the class mark for the second class. It means for the second class, we add 144.5 to 149.5, and then we divide the sum by 2. And then in this case, we can find the class mark for the second class should be 147. And then we can continue in this way to find the class mark for the remaining classes. Now you can see this is the completed table. After we have completed the table, then we can proceed to draw the histogram. For the histogram, we have two axes here. One is horizontal and the other one is vertical. And then we use the horizontal axis to represent the height here in this case. And then the vertical axis is always used to represent the frequency. And then when we look at the height, for the first class, the lower class boundary is 139.5. Therefore, usually here it is the origin represents the value 0. If we start from 0 and then say, for example, if I use 2 squared to represent 10, like that, then it means I have to use a very wide paper to draw the graph. And therefore this part, the values are not necessary because the lower class boundary for the first class is 139.5. Therefore it means for those values lower than 139 are meaningless to be shown in the histogram. That's why we have to skip some values. Wherever we skip the values, then we have to draw a symbol like that. It means we have to skip some values. And then we have to draw the axis. Even there are some lines on the graph paper, but we still need to draw the vertical line for the axis. Okay, of course, for your case you should use a ruler. Then in this case we can first of all mark the point here, and then we will use class mark to represent each class. Therefore I can mark this point. This point represents the value 142, and then this is 147, 152, 157, 162, and this is 167. And then for the frequency for the vertical axis, as we can see, the values are not very big. Therefore we do not need to skip the values. Therefore I can have, let's see, we can count it first. And then when you count, you will see that in this case they are not enough because the highest frequency is 14. Therefore we better to use 1 square to represent 2. Therefore 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and then we add upon 16 like that. And then we don't need this part. And of course in your case, if you have the graph paper, then you should draw the vertical line, and you should make use of the ruler to draw the vertical axis like that. And then in this case you can see we use 2 square here to represent one group, and therefore for the first group the frequency is 3, and therefore we draw a rectangular bar like that. This is the first group, first class, and we label this class with the class mark in the middle. And then for the second class, the frequency is 5. And we can continue in this way. And then we can shape the bars like that. Okay, and this is done. This is the histogram. Now at the end, just remind you once again, when we draw the histogram, Whenever we draw a graph, we need a title, and then we also have to label the vertical axis, the horizontal axis. If that's the case that we have to skip some values, make sure that we add the symbol. It means for this part, it does not follow the scale of the graph for the other parts. And then for each class or each bar here, okay, we label it with the class mark, and the class mark is the middle value. It means for this case, for this first one, okay, we take this one as an example. We start the bar here and then up to here. Actually, this is 139.5, the lower class boundary. And then the value for this point is 144.5. But for drawing histogram, we don't use the lower class and upper class boundary to represent the class. We just use the class mark. And the class mark is the middle values between these 2 points. Therefore, when we label the graph, we don't have this part. Therefore, we just show the class mark for each class like that. Label the middle values. Okay, right. Now you can try the exercise in your book and then see whether you have any problems. If you have any problem, you should find your teachers. Bye bye.